finances. And I don't think this body, to my knowledge, has had a conversation, at least openly, about how that gap's going to be filled. So maybe that's something we need to talk about.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Winslow. Are you saying that, because I believe from a financial, is Chesterfield thinking about capping the amount at the upper level of the scale? Is that what's occurring?
Well, my understanding is that we were prepared with additional representation, to move forward, but without, that representation, I think we are capped at that above amount, if I'm not mistaken, at least currently.
Mr. Chairman, my understanding, and I believe Mr. Reverend Nelson's not with us yet, is he? Because I was hearing that Chesterfield and Henrico were both planning on capping their expenditures to PlanRVA if they didn't get the additional representation, but I don't know that was ever shared with us as being a formal vote on either one of them's part. Can you tell me that, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's feeling on our board that without representation, we can't go above that capped amount as currently stated in the plan. And I think Henrico shares that view as well. I understand there are different concerns out there with regard to this amendment, and that's why we're dealing with this amended version. But from a budgetary standpoint, we don't feel comfortable, sort of raising our dollar amount without appropriate corresponding representation.
You would say raising, you actually mean lowering, correct? Because you're currently at that level now without the votes, so it's not necessarily a raising of it, it's a lowering it down to that threshold.
Also, my understanding is it will create a gap. So yes, I understand what you're saying. I think we're just stating it differently. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, that's kind of a sticky wicket. I'm calling my attorney, Mr. Gregory.
Yes, sir.
What any thoughts come to mind for that?
Well, I mean that has been the discussion point from Chesterfield, I believe, for some time as we've been going through this process, and that's obviously the reason why they wanted to increase their representation.
Sure.
It's
Sure.
It makes sense, but that did not appear to have viability among the entirety of the membership of PlanRVA. So that's why we are where we are. The financial commitments from the member jurisdictions is not directly addressed in the charter, nor is the rate set for the per diem costs or membership dues, if you will, for set in the charter. So that's sort of a separate item that hasn't been dealt with in the charter before. And it may be, some future desire of the body to include those elements in the charter. But I don't know, that would be a decision for the body to make. There's no direct linkage between the level of representation and the financial commitments of the member jurisdictions.
Okay. Well, I think,
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to suggest, because I think this, Chris has brought up a very good point here. With looking at the new version of the charter, which leaves the representation as it is, and based on the intent of Chesterfield and what I understand is the intent of Henrico, I'm not too sure we shouldn't refer this question of funding to the Finance Committee for recommendations, because it may well be that we're going to have to come back and say funding for PlanRVA is going to be based on representation rather than population. If we got two of our jurisdictions are saying, hey, we're not going beyond a certain point, then that puts others in a precarious position. We have to help make up the difference.
Right.
And I think that can have an effect on, I'd like to take this whole thing back to my board with that understanding, is that if we pass this one, the odds are that our funding for PlanRVA from Hanover is going to have to go up to compensate for the drop from Henrico and Chesterfield. And same thing for the city and everybody else.
I agree, Mr. Pearson. I was thinking on the same lines. So, Chris, do you know when? And I know you're just representing other folks, so I understand the position you're in. Do you know when that plans to take effect? Because if this amendment gets killed and new charters don't go in place, there's going to have to be a decision from Chesterfield or Henrico to withhold those funds. Is that planned when it's either dead or revised, or is that the new fiscal year? And I'm only asking so that we can allow the finance committee to have as much information as they can to help come up with options that are the most feasible.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, are you addressing me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I think I heard most of that. I'm sorry, I'm driving as well. So what I would say is that this would impact the fiscal year for sure, and it's just a feeling on our board that the population increases in the region relative to each other really just haven't been recognized in this plan that's been amended and considered by all of us. So I mean, I think we're up to 355,000 according to our own estimates. Henrico is not far behind. I think the city, I don't know, Ms. Snoop will be able to tell me better, but 250 maybe 270, something like that. It's just a matter of being able to take this back to our citizens and tell them we're getting taxation with representation, so to speak. But I do think this impacts the fiscal year, and it wouldn't be. I'm not sure when those bills go out, so to speak, when the invoices go out to fund PlanRVA. I'm pretty sure that's a fiscal year question, and I agree with Mr. Peterson. This should be referred to finance.
Okay. Reverend Nelson, thank you for joining. I'm not sure how much of the conversation you've been able to hear, but we were talking about the charter agreement updates, and each locality was providing an update on where they were. And Mr. Winslow gave us the update that while Chesterfield is willing to is fine passing it, their plan is to reduce the amount of the per capita to the upper limit, which I think is the $250,000, which will in effect leave us less revenue, obviously, coming in. And there was some indication that Henrico might be thinking about doing the same. And what's being discussed is taking this to the finance committee. So are you able to share sort of where Henrico stands on this so that we can ensure that our finance committee has the most accurate information?
You said there's some indication. Where'd the indication come from?
That's a good question. Mr. Peterson, I believe, brought it up that Henrico had said, and I've actually, Mr. Winslow had mentioned it. So if that's not the case, then that's great to know. We're just trying to.
I'm not, I mean, if they can speak better for Henrico, that's fine, but I haven't heard anything different.
So as it's your understanding that Henrico is a.
Yeah, my understanding is we haven't talked about doing anything other than what was proposed, not as a board. So if there are other conversations that are going on that I'm not a part of, then I can't speak to that. But I've not heard that we are reducing anything or doing anything different than what was originally planned.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Mr. Chairman, I was one of them that brought that up, and I will have to say that all of the different the jurisdictions, I know our finance people have been talked to each other through this process, and that was never, and did not, if I indicated this was a decision by Henrico, I did not mean to do so. It was just as part of the discussions that came back to me as the Chesterfield and Henrico were considering if the additional representation was not there, that they would cap their contribution to PlanRVA at the maximum level currently existing. But that was only a conversation, and to my knowledge, no decisions ever been made by either of the two. So both jurisdictions are represented here now, so I'll shut up.
Thank you for clarification, Mr. Peterson. All right, so it looks like if we are in approval, it appears, unless we hear otherwise, and I think we might want to circle back around, but that we're looking at what would the financial impact be if Chesterfield only decreases the amount that they are contributing, or to that level. And again, I completely understand the thought behind it and appreciate the position that the board of Chesterfield is in, and we will turn this over to the finance committee. And I think for our next meeting, a commission meeting, I'll provide that update in my chairman's report. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question about that then. If that's the case, is this something, is this draft, should it even be considered to be on the agenda for our April meeting at our Board of Supervisors meeting, or should we wait until we have clarification on this board?
Well, I think for myself, for Gooch, I'm going to wait until we hear back from the finance committee and what the recommendation is. I don't want to vote. Not that we mind voting on things multiple times, but
Thank you. Because I was going to say we will too as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth, because we will need to know, because that either our budgets go down or our dues go up. So we're gonna have to know that, because we'll have to understand the impact depending on what comes out of the finance committee meeting. Unless somebody with deep pockets wants to pitch in and make up the difference. That's
Mr. Chair, Cynthia Newbill, when does the Finance Committee meet?
I look for staff to help me with that.
Scheduled to meet on Tuesday, March 23rd at 1:30 p.m. I will let you know that because of the restructure of appointments as of January, Dr. Newbill, the city used to have a member on the Finance Committee. That was Councilwoman Gray. And so with her not returning to council and the commission, we don't have an appointee from the city council anymore on Finance Committee, if that's something that Mr. Spoonhour might want to entertain, if we want to look at that membership.
Sure, it's my understanding if the seat is vacated due to certain situations, that the locality that has a seat may appoint someone to that seat. Is that correct, Ms. Heater?
Yeah, this appointment to the committee is actually yours, but it has historically come at the request of the localities. As you said, we don't direct members of the commission to sit on committees. So if the city wishes to have someone, I think that person who would like to volunteer should notify you, and then you would simply anoint that appointment.
So, Mr. Chair, if acceptable, I'll follow up with you relative to recommendation for someone to sit on that committee.
Most definitely. Never thought about anointing anyone before. That's this rule has all kinds of different facets to it. Awesome.
Mr. Chairman, I would, as I sit on that committee, I would certainly love to have somebody from the city there for our meeting this month.
Fair enough. Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for the open and honest and candid discussion. Appreciate that. Moving on to the key imperatives to be included. Last month, Ms. Heater shared with you the key imperatives. Just kind of want to frame them in the context with which they are intended. This is by no means a hard, fast set of checklist things that are going on. This is the ability for our executive director to share with this body and the leadership of this organization the direction that it's going, and supporting this is I think akin to signaling to the executive director, yes, we appreciate you sharing the direction that you're planning to take the organization. We are on board with you and we support you with that. And I look for Ms. Heater to provide us updates maybe quarterly on how we are projecting towards those things. And it's just a great opportunity for us to look and see that, you know, we agree with the direction that we're heading, and we're excited about the innovations that are coming and the improvements that she continues to drive. So I'm looking forward to bringing this to the full commission again to sort of give that support. We've had a month in this. I think Martha has gotten some feedback from some of the localities, but if anybody has any concerns or things we want to discuss here, I'm happy to have that conversation.
Mr. Chair,
yes,
can I go back to what we were previously talking about? I just got some confirmation. So Henrico is not looking at changing anything funding wise with PDC, which is what I thought. So our only concern was about the vote change, not about funding.
Thank you for that, Reverend Nelson. I appreciate that update, that confirmation. All right, regarding the key imperatives, any thoughts? Questions? Please, for mercy. All right. Well, thank you, Martha, for putting that together. Looking forward to seeing how that work progresses throughout this calendar year. All right, now moving into new business. We have Ms. Heater, you wanted to talk about a couple positions and some exciting talent that you have the opportunity to maybe make more permanent.
Yeah, thank you so much. Wanted to pitch to the members of the executive committee this morning a request for you to consider approval of the conversion of 2 part-time temporary positions to 2 full-time regular positions in our staff roles. I've been working with the members of our leadership team as we look at our current workload for this fiscal year and upcoming workload for next fiscal year. And we think that this is a really good first step to increasing the capacity that we need to meet those work demands. So our request is to approve the transition of our 2 Wilder Fellow positions from part-time temporary status to full-time regular status, those 2 positions. And in doing so, we would then not participate in the Wilder Fellowship for the academic year 21 to 22. So by way of a little bit of background, we've been participating with the VCU Wilder Fellowship program now for the last couple of years. And it's been just a really great opportunity for us to leverage graduate level talent from the School of Government Affairs and Public Service at VCU. And, you know, it's been great for them. They get on the job training while they're pursuing their academic program. And then of course we get access to that kind of top talent from those folks. So these Wilder Fellows are placed in public sector organizations across the region, including many of our state partners, and including local government also. I think the Henrico County has also been participating in the program for the last couple of years. So each of those students, the Wilder Fellows, are vetted by the program, and they come with high academic achievement, as well as some really strong professional experience. So if not in chronological years, they definitely come with I would say a higher level of maturity and focus that's been really great for us. So over the course of our participation in the program, we've hosted 5 Wilder Fellows, and that's been really great. And we're really, really lucky this year to have 2 students that are going to be completing their graduate programs this spring. So we'd love to be able to extend an offer for those folks to transition to full-time with us after their graduation. The cost for that transition would be approximately $6,000 in this fiscal year. And that's the differential between between full-time employment with benefits for the months of May and June compared to hourly compensation during that same period of time without benefits. So the good news is that cost is 100% eligible for billing through our programs, and each is assigned to grant funded work in our environmental and transportation program. So we would recover the whole of those expenses for that conversion. These 2 fellows that we have on our team right now are really top notch, and I'd love to be able to offer them positions in full-time capacity with us soon before we get closer to the end of the semester, because obviously they, I think, will be in high demand for full-time employment. They've been both instrumental in moving some critical work forward for us, and we'd be frankly hard pressed to be able to match their skill set with other interns, coming in after them this summer. So I did let Chet Parsons know we've been kind of working on this proposal together, and he's available if you have any questions, and could probably speak a little bit more with specificity on some of the talents and contributions and the gaps that they could fill for us. But I did want to highlight a few things. Mrs. Page and Mr. Winslow, I know you both have been interested in how we can provide a greater level of service to our localities and our environmental and resiliency related work. So one of the 2 fellows has been working alongside Sarah Stewart, our environmental program manager, to do just that. Rebecca Cazares has been an awesome contributor to the grant applications that we've been submitting to support the Don't Trash Central Virginia campaign, and have also been working with Sarah to pursue additional grants to support flood awareness and other capacity supports around resiliency across the region. And then those of you that serve on the TPO or recently or currently are probably very familiar with the volume of work right now that our staff is doing related to the long range transportation plan. And of course, that Barb J. Cox is leading a very small but mighty group of our staff members in our modal planning work. So that's the work that covers our transit planning, our bicycle and pedestrian work, rail and freight. And Dan Mata, the Wilder Fellow on her team, has been a huge part of that work. You've probably seen a lot of his work product and the story maps that we've been putting out, which has been a huge enhancement to our public awareness and communications, even with our commissioners. So I'd be happy to answer questions. Wanted to be able to introduce this as a pitch to you and answer questions. Again, Chet is also on the call this morning to elaborate.
So just thank you, Ms. Skeeter. So just to summarize, you've got 2 folks that are knocking out of the park that are going to be finishing up their graduate degrees, bringing them on from part-time to full-time. So you're getting people that already understand the organization. The costs will in effect will balance out because the revenues generated will be the gap in the part-time to full-time will be fully covered. Sounds like a win-win-win. Any thoughts from any of the other committee members?
Is the FTE already included, the additional FTE already included in next year's, in the next fiscal year's budget?
That would be our intention, yes. So I think based on the conversation this morning about the charter, Mr. Peterson, when we meet at the end of March, we would include a financial analysis that would include these 2 positions in the full-time roster, but also would include the analysis of the implications of different dues decisions that might be made.
So, Ms. Heater, are you looking for this in this meeting for us to be able to give you the authorization to flip those positions to full-time?
I certainly would love that. I want to make sure that you have the information, but yeah, absolutely. If the committee felt ready, that would be great to have that approval.
Okay.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. I think we could do this by acclamation since we're just authorizing the positions. So we will be voting on the reclassification of 2 part-time positions to full-time for these 2 fellows for fiscal year 2021. All in favor, please say aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
since this has a financial impact on the agency, or could, I would recommend a roll call vote, please.
Okay, Eric. Fine. Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. Keep me in line. I appreciate you. Keep me honest. Ms. Fusco.
Yes, thank you. Vice Chair Winslow.
Aye.
Dr. Newbill.
Aye.
Chair Spoonhour.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Aye.
Reverend Nelson.
Aye.
Miss Page.
Aye.
Mr. McGraw.
Aye.
Thank you.
And Ms. Heater, I also want to just point out that in a time where there's so much opportunity for individuals with that level of experience and education and apparently doing well, it is a great reflection on the organization that you have folks that are wanting to stay on board. So kudos to you and their direct managers and staff for creating an environment that you are able to get great talent. So good job.
Thank you. Chet, let's make sure we pass that along to Sarah and Barb because they are due that credit that Mr. Spoonhour just gave.
They could watch the video back.
Yeah.
As I do most often. All right. Thank you, everybody. It was a great discussion. We will talk again in 10 minutes. At this time, I will adjourn the executive committee meeting March 11th.